Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what if everything I see, hear, and feel is just an illusion? What if my entire life is nothing more than a dream? This question isn't just science fiction, it's one of the deepest puzzles in philosophy. René Descartes explored this mystery in his Meditations on First Philosophy. He threw away every assumption he had, determined to rebuild truth from the ground up. Most of what we know comes through our senses. We see, hear, touch, and trust that these experiences show us reality. But senses can mislead. A shadow in the distance looks like a person. A ball you're certain you'll catch hits the ground instead. If mistakes are possible, how do you know you aren't mistaken right now? Well, at least I know I'm awake. But do you? Dreams can feel just as real. Flying, falling, fighting monsters. Your body lies still in bed, while your mind is convinced it's happening. And when you're dreaming, you can't prove you aren't. So how can you prove you're not dreaming now? Descartes even imagined an evil genius, a powerful deceiver who might trick you into believing everything. Your body, the world, even time itself. If you can't rule that out, what is left to be certain about? Here comes the breakthrough. Even if you're deceived, even if everything is false, one thing remains. The very act of doubting proves you are thinking. And if you are thinking, you must exist, because nothing cannot think. This is why Descartes declared, "Cogito ergo sum," I think, therefore I am. No matter what else may be false, this truth is undeniable. The fact that you are questioning, reasoning, or doubting proves you are real, at least as a mind that thinks. But this discovery also raises a new challenge. If you can only be certain of your own thinking, then what about the world around you? Are other people real, or are they part of the illusion? Can you ever be absolutely sure that your surroundings aren't just projections of your mind? Some philosophers argue that even if we cannot prove external reality beyond all doubt, living as if it is real is the only practical choice. So, the puzzle becomes both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because absolute certainty is so rare. Liberating because it shows the power of thought itself. You may doubt the universe, but you cannot doubt yourself as a thinker. So, how do you know you exist? Because the very act of asking the question is already the proof, and maybe, just maybe, that's the most certain thing you will ever know. Who are you, really? It sounds simple, until you try to give an honest answer. From the ancient Greek command carved on the temple of Apollo, "Know thyself," to modern psychology, theology, and even pop culture, the question of identity has haunted humanity. Poets, philosophers, and scientists alike have wrestled with these three tiny but terrifying words. Who am I? Part of the difficulty lies in the persistence of identity. Which you is the real you? The person you were as a child, the one you are today, or the one you'll become in 50 years? And even more puzzling, when exactly is I? This week, this moment, this fleeting second? And what makes up the self anyway? Are you your body, a bundle of thoughts and emotions, a pattern of actions, or something else entirely? The boundaries blur the closer you look. To illustrate this, the Greek historian Plutarch told the story of the ship of Theseus. After Theseus defeated the Minotaur, his ship was preserved for centuries. Every time a plank decayed, it was replaced with a new one. Eventually, not a single original piece remained. Yet Athenians still called it the ship of Theseus. So was it the same ship or not? Now imagine a twist. Suppose someone collected all the discarded pieces and rebuilt the original vessel. Which one would be the true ship of Theseus? The restored original, or the ship that had sailed for 1,000 years with nothing left of its first form? This paradox reflects our own condition. You are constantly being rebuilt. Cells in your body die and regenerate. Your beliefs shift. Your emotions rise and fall. Your memories fade and reform. Every part of you changes over time, yet somehow you still feel like the same I. Some argue continuity itself is enough, just as the Athenians never stopped calling it Theseus' ship. You never stop calling yourself you. Others say the essence lies in qualities that cannot be replaced: your lived experiences, your personal history, or perhaps your consciousness. So, when you ask, "Who am I?" you are not looking for a single, static answer. You are entering a paradox that has challenged minds for centuries. To embrace it is to accept that identity is both fragile and enduring, ever-changing, yet mysteriously constant. Or maybe, if philosophy feels too heavy, you could simply say, "I am a traveler, steering my own ship through the vast ocean of life." Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, "Who am I, really?" It sounds simple, but the moment you dig deeper, the question unravels into a puzzle with no obvious answer. Philosophers, poets, and seekers of truth have wrestled with this riddle for centuries, from the ancient Greek oracles' words, "Know thyself," to modern psychology and neuroscience. And yet, even today, no one has reached a final, universal conclusion. So why is it so difficult? Part of the challenge lies in the fact that you are never fixed. Think about it. Are you the person you were 5 years ago? Are you the person you will be in 50 years? And when you say, "I am," what time are you really pointing to? This day, this moment, this exact second? Identity slips through our fingers because it changes as we change. But it's not only about time. Which part of you is the real you? Is it your physical body, which renews itself constantly? Is it your emotions, which rise and fall? Is it your mind, your choices, your memories? Or maybe identity is a mixture of all of these, held together by something we cannot fully name. The Greek historian Plutarch illustrated this problem with the legendary ship of Theseus. Over centuries, Athenians replaced the ship's parts one by one until nothing of the original vessel remained. Yet it was still called the ship of Theseus. So, here's the riddle. If every piece of something has been replaced, is it still the same thing? Now imagine this applied to you. Your body, your thoughts, your habits, all gradually replaced over time. Are you still the same person? Or are you a new you every day? The paradox deepens when we imagine rebuilding the original ship from its discarded parts. Suddenly, we end up with two ships of Theseus. Which one is the real ship? Likewise, when we change, evolve, and reinvent ourselves, is the real you the one that has persisted or the one that once was? Philosophers argue both ways. Some insist continuity itself is identity. No matter how much you change, the story of your life ties it all together. Others claim that without the original essence, you are not the same at all. Both views reveal just how slippery the question of self truly is. And yet, there's something liberating here. If your identity is not a fixed object, then it is also not a prison. It means you can grow, adapt, and transform without losing your humanity. Maybe the answer to "Who am I?" is not a final definition but an ongoing journey, an epic voyage like Theseus himself. So, who are you? A body, a mind, a soul, or perhaps all of these? carried forward on the ship of your life. The truth may be less about arriving at a destination and more about learning to sail. What if every choice you make was already written before you were born? All throughout history, people have wondered, are we truly free to choose, or are we just following a script written by forces beyond our control? This ancient debate, known as free will versus determinism, strikes at the very heart of human identity. If your actions are predetermined, can you ever be responsible for them? And if you are completely free, why do so many of your choices feel shaped by things you never picked? Your culture, your biology, even the time in history you were born. Determinists argue that every event is the product of a cause. Just like a domino toppling into the next, your decision to eat an apple instead of an orange was influenced by hidden factors, your taste buds, your past habits, your environment, even your genetics. From this perspective, free will is an illusion. You feel like you're choosing, but really, you're just carrying out what was always bound to happen. On the other side, defenders of free will claim that without the power to choose, morality collapses. If everything is predetermined, how can we blame a criminal or praise a hero? Laws, justice, even personal growth would lose meaning if humans were nothing more than puppets pulled by unseen strings. Some philosophers have tried to find a middle path, compatibilism. They argue that even if the universe runs on cause and effect, humans can still be considered free as long as they act according to their own desires and reasoning. You may not control the fact that you were born with certain traits, but you still make conscious decisions within the conditions given to you. Think about it. When you pause to reflect before making a tough choice, are you exercising freedom, or are you simply playing out a complex chain of prior influences? Neuroscientific experiments add fuel to the fire, showing that our brains sometimes decide milliseconds before we become aware of our choice. Does that mean science has proven free will false? Or does it just reveal how mysterious human consciousness really is? So the question remains, are you the author of your story, or just an actor reading lines from a script you never wrote? Perhaps freedom isn't absolute, but exists in how we interpret and embrace the forces that shape us. What if every choice you make was already written long before you even thought about it? Imagine standing at a crossroads, believing you're free to choose left or right. But what if the path was decided the moment the universe began? This is the age-old struggle between free will and determinism. For centuries, philosophers, scientists, and theologians have wrestled with this paradox. On one side, the defenders of free will argue that humans are autonomous beings capable of shaping their destiny. You wake up, you decide whether to work, rest, or take risks. And those decisions, they claim, spring from your own agency. Without free will, how could we hold anyone morally responsible for their actions? Praise and blame would lose all meaning if people were nothing more than puppets tied to invisible strings. Yet determinists push back. They argue that every action is the inevitable result of prior causes. Your biology, upbringing, culture, even the laws of physics. Just as a falling domino cannot choose to stop mid-fall, neither can you escape the chain of causes that led to this exact moment. From the beating of your heart to the words you speak, determinists say, all of it flows from forces outside your conscious control. But things get even more complicated. Neuroscience experiments suggest that the brain shows signs of making a decision milliseconds before we become aware of choosing. Does that mean our sense of freedom is just an illusion created by the mind to give us comfort? Philosophers have tried to bridge this divide. Compatibilists argue that determinism and free will can coexist. According to them, freedom isn't about breaking the laws of cause and effect. It's about acting according to your own motives without external coercion. In other words, you are free when you act from your inner desires, even if those desires themselves were shaped by prior causes. Still, the debate remains unresolved. If determinism rules all, are we condemned to be passengers on a train whose route was fixed at the beginning of time? Or if free will exists, do we possess a mysterious power that allows us to bend the universe's script? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe freedom is not absolute control, but the ability to reflect, question, and respond within the conditions life gives us. Or maybe the real power of this debate is not in solving it once and for all, but in how it forces us to confront the deepest mystery of human existence. What does it truly mean to choose? Have you ever wondered what exactly connects your thoughts to your body? When you decide to raise your hand, a simple intention suddenly transforms into movement. But how does something immaterial like a thought cause a physical action? This ancient puzzle is known as the mind-body problem, and it has challenged philosophers for centuries. René Descartes, one of the first to frame the issue sharply, argued that the mind and body are two distinct substances. The mind, he said, is non-physical. It thinks, doubts, and imagines, while the body is physical, extended in space, and follows the laws of matter. But here's the catch. If the mind and body are truly separate, how can they interact? How does a fleeting idea make your muscles contract? Other thinkers pushed back. Some embraced materialism, the view that everything about the mind can be explained by physical processes in the brain. In this view, your consciousness is not a mysterious substance, but rather the firing of neurons and chemical signals. Yet this too leaves questions. If we are just biology, how do we explain subjective experience, the rich inner world of colors, pain, joy, and imagination? This leads to the famous concept of qualia, the what it feels like dimension of experience. No brain scan can capture the redness of red or the taste of coffee as you perceive it. This is why some argue that consciousness is irreducible, something more than physical matter. Others propose a middle path. Dual aspect theories suggest that mind and body are not two substances, but two ways of describing one reality, like two sides of a coin. Neuroscience studies continue to map brain activity to mental states, but the mystery remains. Correlation is not the same as explanation. So where does this leave us? On one side, science shows how mental states line up with brain states. On the other, philosophy reminds us that lived experience cannot be fully captured by mechanics alone. The mind-body problem is not just an abstract riddle. It shapes debates about free will, personal identity, artificial intelligence, and even ethics. Perhaps the real answer is not about choosing one side, but learning to live in the tension. Maybe the mind and body are neither fully separate nor fully identical, but part of a reality that is still beyond our complete understanding. So, the next time you feel your heart race when you're nervous, or a memory floods back with the smell of a perfume, ask yourself, is it the body creating the mind directing the body, or could they both be threads of the same mysterious fabric? Have you ever stopped to wonder whether your thoughts and feelings are simply sparks of matter in motion, or something beyond the physical world? This is the timeless riddle known as the mind-body problem, a puzzle that has fascinated philosophers for centuries. From the time of Plato and Aristotle, thinkers questioned the nature of the self. Is the mind a separate, immaterial soul, or is it bound to the body like a flame to a candle? Later, René Descartes gave the problem its most famous form. He argued that the mind is a thinking substance, distinct from the extended substance of the body. For him, consciousness was not reducible to flesh, and yet it interacted with the body in mysterious ways. But this dualistic vision raised new questions. If mind and body are made of entirely different substances, how can they influence each other? How can an immaterial thought cause a physical hand to rise, or a burst of pain shoot through the body and stir the mind? The puzzle only deepens as we reflect on our everyday lives. On the other side, materialist philosophers argued that the mind is not separate at all, but rather the product of the body. specifically the brain. According to this view, your experiences, emotions, and choices are all the results of neural activity. Every flicker of consciousness is tied to chemical signals, synapses, and electric currents. But then comes the unsettling thought: if the mind is only brain activity, how do we explain the richness of subjective experience? What philosophers call qualia, the taste of coffee, the pain of a headache, the color red. These feel too vivid to be explained as mere physical processes. Some thinkers suggest that mind and body are not two separate things, but two perspectives on the same underlying reality. Just as a single coin has both a head and a tail, perhaps consciousness and matter are two aspects of one deeper substance. This idea, known as monism, attempts to bridge the divide without erasing either side. The debate remains unresolved. Every time you pause to think, every time you act on a decision, you are living this paradox. Are you a body that happens to think, or a mind temporarily housed in flesh? Perhaps you are both, and perhaps neither description captures the full truth. What is clear is that the mind-body problem is not an abstract riddle locked away in philosophy books. It is the story of you, me, and every conscious being who has ever asked, "What am I, really?" Have you ever wondered if you're truly the same person you were yesterday, or even 5 minutes ago? Imagine your memory shifting, your body aging, your experiences stacking up like layers of paint. Are you still you, or are you just a new version wearing the same name? This is exactly the puzzle that John Locke, one of the great minds of the Enlightenment, tried to solve. Unlike earlier thinkers who tied identity to the physical body or to some unchanging essence, Locke argued that what makes you you is not your body, nor even your soul. It is your consciousness, especially your memory. Think of it this way: if you can remember doing something, then the you who remembers is the same person as the you who did it. A child stealing an apple and the adult, decades later, recalling that moment, are connected by memory. That continuity of awareness is what carries personal identity forward. But Locke's idea opens up deep questions. What if your memories fade? Are you still the same person if you forget entire chapters of your life? Does losing memory mean losing part of your identity? And what about memories that are distorted or even fabricated? If memory is the glue of selfhood, then how reliable is that glue when our minds are so fragile? Philosophers after Locke pushed this idea further with thought experiments. Imagine waking up tomorrow with all your memories transplanted into another body. According to Locke's view, that other body would now be you, because memory, not flesh, is the true seat of identity. But doesn't this raise unsettling questions about responsibility, punishment, and moral accountability? If a criminal forgets his crime, is he still the same person who should face justice? Locke's perspective challenges us to rethink what it means to persist through time. Perhaps you are not a fixed entity at all, but an ongoing story, a narrative stitched together by the fragile thread of memory. Each day you wake up, you are both the same and different. The same because of the chain of consciousness that links you back, and different because new experiences rewrite the story. So, who are you really? A body of flesh and bone, a soul beyond time, or a living memory in motion, carrying fragments of yesterday into the uncertain future? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, are you truly free, or are your choices already written into the fabric of the universe? This haunting question lies at the heart of the debate between free will and determinism. Free will suggests that you are the author of your life story, able to choose, to change, to act differently tomorrow than you did today. It gives weight to morality, justice, and growth. If people could not have acted otherwise, How could we praise acts of kindness or condemn cruelty? The very idea of responsibility depends on the belief that choices are real. Determinism, however, paints a different picture. It argues that every thought, every decision, and every desire is simply the effect of prior causes. Just as falling dominoes move in predictable sequence, your mind and actions may be the result of biology, upbringing, and circumstance. In this view, what you call choice might only be the unfolding of a script written long before you were aware of it. This clash raises unsettling questions. If determinism is true, are criminals truly guilty, or just products of forces beyond their control? And if free will is real, how do we explain the overwhelming influence of genes, culture, and environment, things we never chose? Some thinkers offer a middle path, compatibilism. According to this idea, freedom and determinism can coexist. You are free when you act according to your own desires and reasoning, even if those desires themselves have causes. Choosing to learn music because you love it counts as freedom, even if that passion was shaped by your past. Modern science complicates matters further. Brain studies suggest that decisions may begin in the unconscious before we decide them consciously. Does that mean free will is an illusion? Or does it mean freedom works at a higher level, where you reflect, evaluate, and direct how those impulses shape your future? In everyday life, the tension is clear. You feel freedom when you weigh choices, yet you also sense how past experiences, family, and culture shape your path. It's as if you are both the writer of your story and a character caught in a larger narrative. Perhaps the truth lies in the balance. Life might be a dance between necessity and possibility. The world gives us conditions, but within them we carve out our own meaning. And here is the paradox. Even if determinism were absolute, you still experience life as if choices matter. You pause, reflect, and act as though the future is open. That very experience may be what defines us as human beings. So ask yourself, are you steering your fate or simply moving along a chain of causes? Maybe the deepest freedom is not escaping determinism, but deciding how we live with it.